World Bank President Ajay Banga says wealthier nations must support the African continent. Banga addressed the inaugural Economic Development Assembly, which is organized by the Global Citizen Movement as well as the Harith General Partners. The event saw musicians, actors, CEOs of global companies as well as African heads of state coming together to sign the Abidjan Accord. It compels the G20 to pump $120 billion into International Development Association's coffers. Our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, filed this report.
African heads of state, business leaders and civil society who have met this week in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, have one message for the world's wealthiest nations. It's time to live up to your development policies and promises when it comes to sustainable development goals. Unless that happens, the target on the deadline, which is 2030, will seem far from reach.
There is not a shortage of things to do on the continent. What there is a shortage of is enough risk capital to take a long-term bet on the continent. But the opportunities are, we discuss with our teams that in terms of like what we are doing, especially if you look at infrastructure, there's going to be more than enough to do for the next 100 years and not enough capital. But we need then to reduce that cost of capital that the continent gets to enable to unlock the viability of those projects.
We have to do better in funding the International Development Association specifically for the sake of Africa. Bridgewater understands through our research that Africa is at a major crossroads. And this crossroads isn't only going to impact the continent, it's going to impact the entire world. And if everyone, not just in this room, but well beyond this room, doesn't realize that, the future can be very, very grim.
The President of Sierra Leone and the Prime Minister of Rwanda both recounted what the World Bank's IDA, which gives zero-interest loans to the poorest of countries, has meant for their countries, with case studies of how their citizens have been impacted by these loans.
So what we have done with IDA money, we have been investing together with World Bank in different sectors. The first one being energy sector, because we knew that with energy you can have an impact on other different sectors, be it social sector or economic production. So there is that figure everyone knows, maybe most of you know about the electricity connectivity in Rwanda, which was at a rate of 6% in 2009, and now have reached 78% today of connected household to electricity.
Make noise for a strong IDA replenishment. I believe IDA replenishment or IDA has been a lifeline for some of us, the low-income countries. We are making efforts, but our efforts are not enough. What we have done in Sierra Leone, for instance, with IDA support, we have embarked on education. The World Bank leader was right to say, as leaders, we have several things to do, but you have to be intentional and purposeful in choosing what you have to embark on. 44
of the 75 countries around the world which have been classified as the poorest are found on the African continent. The World Bank's Ajay Banga says it's time for Africa to invest in its most precious commodity, its youth.
This is the time for you to make some noise. Make people hear that we are in a world in which borders will not protect us from health challenges and climate challenges, and the aspirations of young people deserve to be addressed. So they stay in their home country and build the wealth of that country, or they go to a country because they are desired to be there by what they bring. Because our problems are too big to solve $1 at a time. We need public money, we need multilateral money, but we need the private sector and we need philanthropic money. people like you involved, people like Bridgewater involved. We need all shoulders at the wheel. Time is not on our side.
At the level of Africa, we need to work together as leaders in the political sector, in corporate, in various traditional leaders and civil society, including also the workers, organized labor, to ensure that we focus on how to take Africa's economic potential to the next level, where no community, where no citizen is left behind.
Attention now turns to Brazil in December, where the world's wealthiest nations in the G20 will be meeting to decide how to approach the demands of the World Bank's IDA as far as the world's poorest countries are concerned. South Africa is going to take over the presidency of the G20 from Brazil, and that in itself is bringing hope for the world's poorest and mostly African nations. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Xolani Mbanjwa in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire.